Welcome to CyberExplain channel. Today we are going to discuss SAML and Federation, Seamless Secure Access Explained. Alright, so we are talking about SAML today, which stands for Security Assertion Markup Language. Think of it as a super smart, standardized way for different online services to talk to each other about who you are and what you are allowed to do, all without you having to re-enter your username and password everywhere. It's the backbone of a lot of the single sign-on, SSO, experiences you probably use every day, especially when you're logging into cloud applications. Instead of each app having to verify your identity from scratch, SAML lets a trusted identity provider tell all the other service providers that you are good to go. It's all about exchanging secure assertions, which are basically digital statements of trust. When SAML is in play, there are two main characters, the identity provider, IdP, and the service provider, SP. Your IdP is like your trusted digital passport office. It holds your core identity information and is responsible for confirming who you are. Think of your company's main authentication system, like Azure AD or Okta. The SP, on the other hand, is the application or service you are trying to access, say, Salesforce or a SaaS tool. The SP trusts the IdP to tell it if you are legitimate. So, when you try to access an SP, it redirects you to your IdP, you authenticate there, and then the IdP sends a SAML assertion back to the SP saying, yep, this person is who they say they are. So, what's actually being passed around? That's the SAML assertion. It's an XML document that contains statements about the user's identity and attributes. There are a few types. An authentication assertion confirms you logged in, an attribute assertion provides details like your department or role, and a Bubunku assertion confirms authorization. The really cool part is that these assertions are digitally signed by the IdP. This signature is crucial because it's how the SP can cryptographically verify that the assertion actually came from the trusted IdP and hasn't been tampered with along the way. It's like having a tamper-proof seal on your passport. Let's peek under the hood of a SAML assertion. You'll typically find an issuer element, which is the IdP that issued it. The subject element describes the user, often with a name ID and format. Then there are the conditions, like the audience, which SP it's for, and validity periods. The core statements are usually within SAML, assertion tags, and can include SAML attribute statement for user attributes like email, department, or group memberships. Crucially, the entire assertion is wrapped in a DS signature element. This signature uses the IdP's private key to encrypt a hash of the assertion's content. The SP can then use the IdP's public key to decrypt the hash and compare it with a new hash it calculates from the received assertion. If they match, boom, you've got trust. Let's trace a typical SAML SSO flow. First, you visit a service provider, SP, and click a Login with SSO button. The SP generates a SAML authentication request and redirects your browser to your identity provider, IdP. You authenticate with the IdP, username, password, MFA, etc. If successful, the IdP generates a SAML assertion and sends it back to your browser, usually via an HTTP post. Your browser then automatically submits this assertion to the SP. The SP validates the assertion's signature, checks its conditions, like audience and expiry, and if everything checks out, grants you access. Pretty neat, right? It all happens behind the scenes in a few milliseconds. There are two main ways this SAML dance can start. IdP-Initiated SSO is what we just described. You go to the application, the SP, first. The SP then kicks off the process by asking the IdP for authentication. IdP-Initiated SSO is a bit different. Here, you might go directly to a portal provided by your IdP, like a My Apps dashboard. You click on an application tile there, and the IdP then sends a SAML assertion directly to the SP, granting you access. This is great because it centralizes your application access, But it means the IDP needs to know about all the SPs you have access to, and vice versa, for the whole system to work. Federation is the broader concept that SAML enables. It's about establishing trust relationships between separate organizations or systems so that identities can be asserted across them. Think of it as two companies agreeing to trust each other's ID cards. This is crucial for B2B collaboration, where your employees might need access to a partner's system or for integrating with various cloud services. It's not just about logging in, it's about securely sharing identity information and access rights in a controlled manner. This is where things like attribute sharing and complex consent management come into play. Let's put this into practice with a healthcare example. Imagine a large hospital network that needs to share patient management systems with numerous affiliated clinics and private practices. Each of these entities has its own IT infrastructure and user base. By implementing SAML-based federation, the hospital's central IDP can securely authenticate users from the external clinics. When a doctor from an external clinic needs to access the hospital's EHR system, the SP, they authenticate once with their clinic's IDP. This IDP then sends a SAML assertion to the hospital's EHR system, confirming the doctor's identity and potentially their role, example, cardiologist. This allows seamless, secure access without forcing the clinic staff to create and manage separate accounts on the hospital's network. It's a massive win for efficiency and patient care coordination. In our healthcare scenario, the hospital's IDP acts as the central trust anchor for its internal users. For external clinics, they might have their own IDPs, or the hospital might act as a home realm discovery service, directing users to their respective IDPs. The SAML assertion from the clinic's IDP would contain not just the doctor's identity but potentially crucial attributes like their specialty, affiliation, and even a unique identifier that maps to the hospital's internal roles. The hospital's EHR system, the SP, would be configured to trust assertions from these specific external IDPs. This entire setup allows for granular access control, ensuring doctors only see patient data relevant to their role and affiliation, all while simplifying their login experience significantly. While authentication is key, SAML assertions are powerful for more than just proving you logged in. They can carry rich attribute information. In our healthcare example, an attribute like specialty, cardiology or affiliation, Mayo Clinic within the SAML assertion could be used by the service provider, the EHR system, to dynamically assign the correct permissions. This is far more efficient than managing individual user accounts and permissions for every single external doctor. It allows the EHR to say, okay, this user is a cardiologist from Mayo Clinic, so they get access to cardiology reports and patient histories for patients under their care. This dynamic role assignment based on attributes is a massive benefit. Let's re-emphasize the importance of digital signatures. Without them, SAML assertions are just plain text that anyone could forge. The IDP uses its private key to sign the assertion, and the SP uses the IDP's public key, which it trusts through a prior trust establishment process, often by exchanging metadata, to verify that signature. If the signature is valid, the SP knows that the assertion was indeed issued by the trusted IDP and that it hasn't been altered in transit. This is fundamental to the trust model of SAML. Think of it like a wax seal on a letter. If the seal is unbroken and bears the correct imprint, you know it's from the sender and hasn't been opened or changed. How do the IDP and SP know to trust each other and share public keys? That's where metadata comes in. Both the IDP and SP typically publish metadata documents. These are XML files that contain crucial information like the IDP's entity ID, its SSO endpoints, where to send requests, its signing certificate, which contains the public key, and the SP's entity ID and assertion consumer service, ACS, URL, where to send assertions. By exchanging and importing each other's metadata, The IdP and SP establish a pre-configured trust relationship. This is a critical initial setup step for any SAML integration. While digital signatures protect against tampering and verify the sender, sometimes the actual content of the assertion needs protection, especially if it contains highly sensitive PII or FI. SAML supports XML encryption. This means certain elements within the SAML assertion can be encrypted by the IdP using the SP's public key. The SP can then decrypt these specific elements using its corresponding private key. This adds another layer of confidentiality, ensuring that even if an assertion were intercepted, the sensitive payload remains unreadable to unauthorized parties. Now, it's not always smooth sailing. One of the biggest headaches is clock skew between the IdP and SP. If their clocks are too far apart, the SP might reject a valid assertion because it thinks it's expired or not yet valid. Incorrectly configured metadata, like wrong entity IDs or endpoint URLs, is another common pitfall. Missing or invalid digital signatures are a showstopper. And don't forget certificate expiry. If the IdP's signing certificate expires and the SP hasn't been updated, trust will break. We also see issues with attribute mapping. The SP expects an attribute named department, but the IdP sends dept or something else entirely. Debugging SAML can sometimes feel like detective work. Clock skew is surprisingly common and insidious. When an IdP issues an assertion, it includes timestamps for validity. If the SP's clock is ahead by, say, 5 minutes, it might consider an assertion valid for the next hour to be expired as soon as it's issued. The solution? Ensure both your IdP and SP servers are synchronized to a reliable NTP network time protocol source. This might seem basic, but it's often overlooked in complex distributed environments. Regularly checking and alerting on time drift is a good practice. Metadata mismatches are frequent offenders. This often happens during initial setup or when certificates are updated. Make sure the IdP's entity ID exactly matches what the SP expects and vice versa. Double-check the assertion consumer service (ACS) URL on the IdP side. This is where the assertion gets sent. And critically, ensure the correct signing certificate public key from the IdP is imported into the SP's trust store, and that it hasn't expired or been revoked. Many cloud providers offer import-export functionality for metadata, which can simplify this, but manual configuration errors still creep in. Attribute mapping is another area ripe for error. The IdP sends attributes in a specific format and name, but the SP is expecting them differently. For instance, the IdP might send earn OID 0.9.2342.19 to 00300.100.1.1 for a user ID, while the SP is looking for name ID or a specific email attribute. You'll often need to configure attribute transformations or mappings on either the IdP or the SP side to bridge this gap. Using tools that allow you to inspect the raw SAML assertion is vital here. You can see exactly what the IdP is sending and where the SP is getting confused. For the IdP, security is paramount. Always use strong, unique credentials for administrators. Enable multi-factor authentication, MFA, for all administrative access to the IdP. Limit the number of IdPs you federate with to only those you absolutely trust. Regularly rotate signing certificates before they expire and ensure the SPs are updated with the new metadata promptly. And finally, implement robust logging and monitoring on your IdP to detect any unusual authentication patterns or assertion generation activity. On the SP side, trust only those IdPs that have been thoroughly vetted. Import and securely store the IdP's signing certificate and set up alerts for its upcoming expiry. Configure the SP to only accept assertions from the specific IdP entity ID you've established a relationship with. Avoid broad trust. validate all attributes received in the assertion, especially those used for authorization to prevent attribute injection attacks. And critically, always ensure your SP application itself is patched and secured, as it's the ultimate target of the login process. Beyond just SSO for your own employees, Federation is huge for B2B collaboration. Think about supply chain partners, vendors, or even joint ventures. SAML allows them to use their own IdPs to access your company's resources, or vice versa, without you needing to manage their accounts directly. This is key for efficiency and security. Instead of creating guest accounts for every partner employee, you establish a SAML trust, and they log in with their company credentials. This minimizes administrative overhead and reduces the attack surface, as the partner is responsible for the lifecycle of their own user accounts. Cloud services are a prime use case. When you sign up for a SaaS application, you are often given the choice: sign up with Google, sign up with Microsoft, or use your company SSO. That last option is SAML at work. Your company's IdP federates with the SaaS provider's IdP. This allows your users to access the SaaS app using their existing corporate credentials. For organizations, this means better control over who accesses cloud data and simplifies user lifecycle management. When an employee leaves, their access to all federated cloud apps is automatically revoked via the IdP. While SAML is fantastic for web browser-based SSO, it's not ideal for mobile apps or APIs. That's where OAuth 2.0 and OpenID Connect, OIDC, shine. OAuth is primarily an authorization framework. It allows an application to access resources on behalf of a user without sharing the user's credentials. OIDC builds on OAuth 2.0 to add an identity layer, providing information about the authenticated user. Think of OIDC as the who you are and OAuth as the what you can do. These are crucial for modern mobile and API security. So, SAML for your browser-based web apps, OIDC OAuth for your mobile apps and APIs, they're often used together. It's worth noting that SAML assertions are often transported via HTTP post or redirect bindings. When an IdP redirects you to the SP, it's often a SAML request URL. When it sends the assertion back, it's typically an HTTP post request containing the SAML assertion XML. Understanding these transport mechanisms can be key for debugging. Tools like browser developer consoles or dedicated SAML tracer extensions can capture these requests and responses, showing you the raw XML and HTTP headers involved, which is invaluable for diagnosing issues. Attackers are always looking for weaknesses. One concern with SAML is the potential for session hijacking if the user's browser session with the SP is compromised after authentication. While the SAML assertion itself is signed, the active session token on the SP side can be targeted. Another is assertion replay attacks. If an attacker could somehow intercept a valid SAML assertion and replay it to the SP, they might gain unauthorized access. This is mitigated by including unique IDs within the assertion and ensuring the SP checks if an assertion has already been processed or is within a very tight validity window. The single biggest risk is if the identity provider itself gets compromised. If an attacker gains control of the IdP, they can issue forged SAML assertions for any user, effectively granting themselves access to all connected service providers. This is why securing the IdP is absolutely critical. It's the root of trust. Think of it like a hacker getting the keys to the kingdom. Implementing strong access controls, MFA for administrators, and continuous monitoring on the IdP are non-negotiable. How do we spot suspicious SAML activity? It starts with robust logging on both the IdP and SP. Log every authentication attempt, every assertion issued and consumed, and any errors. Look for anomalies, a sudden spike in failed logins at the IdP, assertions being generated for users who are not active, or multiple successful assertions for the same user in a short period from different SPs. Monitoring the trust relationships, metadata, for unexpected changes is also key. Security information and event management, SIEM, systems are crucial here for correlating these logs and alerting on suspicious patterns. Indications of a compromised IDP might include a surge of successful SSO authentications across many SPs for a single user, especially for accounts that normally have low activity. Look for rapid changes in IDP configurations, such as the signing certificate being swapped out unexpectedly, or new trusted SPs being added without proper authorization. Also, monitor audit trails within the IDP for administrative actions that seem out of the ordinary. Alerting on anomalous behavior based on user or entity baseline is critical for early detection. This is a classic. IdPs use X.509 certificates to sign SAML assertions. These certificates have an expiration date. If the IdP's signing certificate expires and the SP hasn't been updated with the new one, the SP will no longer be able to validate the signature on incoming assertions and trust will break. This usually manifests as users suddenly being unable to log into any federated applications. Proactive certificate management, including timely renewal and distribution of updated metadata to all SPs, is essential to prevent this. Automated certificate management tools can help, but human oversight is still critical. Trust isn't static. It can break if the metadata exchange is incomplete, incorrect, or out of sync. For instance, if an SP's assertion consumer service, ACS, URL changes and the IDP isn't updated, assertions will go to the wrong place and be rejected. Similarly, if an IDP revokes a trusted SP from its configuration, or vice versa, the federation link is severed. This can happen due to misconfiguration, manual errors during updates, or even automated scripts gone awry. Regularly reviewing and auditing configured trust relationships is a good defensive measure. Sometimes, the SAML assertion itself is just broken. This could be due to errors in the IDP's assertion generation logic, data corruption, or even a bug in an intermediate proxy. The SP receives an assertion that doesn't conform to the SAML standard, or its XML is invalid. This will lead to assertion validation failures. Debugging these often involves looking at the raw XML assertion payload and comparing it against the SAML specification, which can be quite technical. The specific error messages from the SP are usually your best clue. For complex environments with many IdPs and SPs, a federation gateway can be a lifesaver. This acts as an intermediary that can translate between different federation protocols or manage multiple SAML configurations centrally. It can handle certificate management, metadata aggregation, and even enforce policies. This abstracts away a lot of the complexity from individual applications and centralizes the trust management. It's like having a dedicated liaison who handles all the diplomatic communication between different entities. Manual updates to metadata are a recipe for disaster. Whenever possible, leverage automated metadata exchange features. Many IDP and SP platforms allow you to fetch metadata from a URL or automatically import it. This ensures that when certificates are rotated or endpoints change, the information propagates across your federated environment much faster and with less risk of human error. This automation is key for maintaining the health and security of your federation infrastructure. As we touched on in detection, robust logging is your best friend for mitigation too. By having detailed logs, you can quickly pinpoint where a SAML flow failed. When an issue arises, you can examine the IDP logs, the SP logs, and any intermediary logs to trace the exact steps and identify the error. Regular audits of your federation configurations, trust relationships, and certificate life cycles will proactively identify potential problems before they cause outages. Think of it as regular health checks for your identity infrastructure. In cloud environments like Azure AD, AWS, or Google Cloud, SAML is often built in. Azure AD, for example, can act as an IdP and has a vast gallery of pre-integrated SP applications. You configure the SAML trust directly within the Cloud Console. AWS IAM Identity Center, formerly AWS SSO, also supports SAML federation with external IdPs. The cloud providers abstract away a lot of the low-level XML generation and signing, making configuration easier, but the underlying SAML principles remain the same. You are still dealing with IdPs, SPs, assertions, and metadata. The trend is towards continuous identity assurance. SAML is great for initial login, but what about ongoing authorization decisions? Emerging standards and patterns leverage richer context and real-time signals. This might involve adaptive authentication that reevaluates trust mid-session, or using OAuth for finer-grained API access after the initial SAML SSO. The goal is to move from a set-it-and-forget-it model to one where identity trustworthiness is continuously assessed, especially in high-risk scenarios. This is where a zero-trust approach truly shines. So, what should you walk away with? SAML is the glue for web-based SSO, enabling secure communication between IdPs and SPs via signed assertions. Understanding the roles of IdP and SP, the structure of assertions, and the critical importance of digital signatures is fundamental. Federation extends this to cross-organizational collaboration and cloud integration. Always anticipate challenges like clock skew and certificate expiry, and focus on robust logging, automated processes, and securing your IdP. It's a powerful tool when implemented correctly. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the CyberExplain channel. See you on the next video.